Hello and welcome to this ESOL Skills for Life Entry 3 Writing Assessment lesson for question 8, Writing Articles. So by the end of this lesson you will be able to apply the knowledge that you have for the layout of an article and structure an article in paragraphs. So now let's look at how to write an article for question 8. The key things we need to remember are to organize the contents of the article in the order they happened, write 3 paragraphs with at least 2 sentences in each, and we must use at least 2 words that refer to the sequence of the day's events. These words include first, after that, next, then, and finally. And we also must plan our article. Now, we have already used and started with this question in the last lesson, so if you haven't done that yet, please go back and watch that lesson first. So, here is the plan that we made in our last lesson in planning an article. The 2 key things that we carried out here were to organize the given details. So those details are in blue in our plan. And we expanded on those details, and the expansion and our own ideas were then put in green. So what does that look like when we write an article? And that's what we will now look at. So now let's look at how we take all the information that we've put together and laid out in the plan, and how that comes across to make the sentences and paragraphs within our article. So first, yes, we are writing an article. And the first thing we need to do with an article before we start making our sentences and paragraphs is to give the article a title. Now for this example question, we could have something simple like a day out. Okay, so we now have our title. Let's move on to paragraph 1, introduction. We have 2 bullet points here. So what we'll do is we'll make 2 sentences with each one of those. And it will look like this. I have been on a day out to the countryside. I went with a friend. Let's look at the second paragraph then, the body. We have all the bullet point information there that we were given in the question, as well as the expanded points in green here. We will make those into 1 sentence for each point, like this. First, I made sandwiches and coffee for the train journey. Next, I met my friend at the station. We were very excited. The train journey started at 8:20 a.m. It took 1 hour and 10 minutes. We arrived at 10:30 and walked through the forest. It was very beautiful. Then we had lunch by the river. I ate a chicken salad. So that would be the main body, a lot more details than the other paragraphs. Now let's look at the conclusion, paragraph 3. Again, we have 2 bullet points for this, and that will then turn into 2 sentences such as this. Finally, the train journey home was at 3 p.m. It was an amazing day out. And another layout feature that we need to include for articles is the byline, which will tell the reader who wrote the article, and it will look something like this. By Jane Smith. So in your example, you will include your first and last names. So just before we check and make sure we have answered the question in full, I wanted to point out not only what we are writing about, but now focusing on when we are writing about. In the question, it states that you have been on a day out to the countryside with a friend. So we're talking about the past, using the past tense. The question and statement in your text is in the present perfect, so that's okay to use it here as well. However, you will note every other verb within the text is in the present simple. So we are not mixing up our future, our present, and our past. We are sticking to the one tense, the past tense. And I think I've got them all there. So just to point out, don't mix up your tenses. Remember not only what you're talking about, but when you are talking about. Okay, so now let's double check that we have actually answered the question. So the first bullet point here is to organize the contents of the article in the order they happened, which we have done. And we have used, as the time words here will help us sequence, we have used first, next, then, and finally. So we have worked through the first action there in the morning and all the way home to the journey in the afternoon. We write 3 paragraphs with at least 2 sentences in each. We have 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, and 2, more than 2, and 2. So yes, we have done that. And as we've already talked about, we have used, well, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 words to talk about the sequence of the day's events. So yes, we have done that also. And we are writing an article, and we have laid it out as such with a heading and a byline. So just let's review those layout features as well. So an article will need a heading, not beginning, and it's very important to help the reader understand when a paragraph begins and ends. We need to leave spaces between each paragraph. And as noted there as well, you will need a byline, and that means your full name. You can use your first and last, or if you choose to use your middle names, that is fine also. If you would like to review and take a look at this article, you can pause the video now before I move on. So now at the end of this lesson, you are able to apply your knowledge about the layout of articles, and within this, structure an article in paragraphs.